let's kind of jump back into this, but let's try to give it a little bit of context because I probably won't include the first part since the audio is pretty bad. But I know we were talking earlier. You said that you believe that being transgender is a mental illness.
Yeah.
And then from there, I tried to explain the difference between sex and gender. So do we want to just pick it up from right there?
Yeah, so we were talking about the differences between sex and gender
Mm-hmm.
and how is gender is basically like what you kind of is like a role that you play.
It's a
And yeah,
socially constructed
yeah.
identity. Yeah.
Although I believe that well, they're not interchangeable. Like they're not, one is for sex and one is for gender, but I do believe that everyone should be this, like they should go for the gender that they're assigned at birth, or
Why?
for the gender that's associated with their sex.
Okay. Why? Why?
Why?
Why? Yeah.
Well,
Why should they do that? If they perceive
because
themselves as being differently, and especially if they're suffering
yeah,
from gender dysphoria, that raises the stakes a lot because now they have an associated mental illness with that problem or with their identity. And you have to go about fixing that. You can't just tell trans people to like stop being trans and just like forget the fact that they have gender dysphoria.
yeah,
That
but the
doesn't
thing is,
happen.
yeah, but I think that most people misdiagnose themselves with gender dysphoria, and they confuse just having some feminine attributes does not mean that they are female. This is what I'm
Well,
trying to say, is
you're
that
right, or they're
having
not a
some
woman, right?
attributes, yeah, they're not a woman. So having different attributes from your gender, like
Mm-hmm.
what the gender that goes with your sex,
Uh-huh.
even if even if let's say a biological man has some female feminine attributes,
Mm-hmm.
does not make them a female.
I, of course
That's
not. Yes.
yeah.
But again, we're not talking about sexual characteristics entirely. We're talking largely about gender dysphoria, which is the really big discomfort associated with the fact that you identify differently than what your biology is. Now, some trans people are actually comfortable just having a penis. Some trans people are, they identify as a woman, they present as a woman, they play the social role of a woman, but they also have a penis and they're completely comfortable with that. That's a thing. But
Yeah.
the reason I usually bring up gender dysphoria is because for the vast majority of trans people, not all, but for the vast majority, they usually do have discomfort with the fact that their biology is different, and also they have
Yeah.
discomfort from the fact that they identify differently than how society treats them as well. So if you're worried about people misdiagnosing themselves, that's not actually an unreasonable thing to be concerned about. So, for example, I've read about issues before where teenagers, for example, if they are online a lot with friends who have depression, they're more
Yeah.
likely to believe themselves to have depression as well.
True.
So
Yeah.
then we have to talk about, though, because I'll concede that that could be a problem. So then what's the next step? The step, or the answer actually, is we need to boost funding for gender clinics because it's there where people go to find out from a certified professional whether or not they really have gender dysphoria.
I disagree with the solution.
How
I
so?
think
Again,
that the
gender dysphoria doesn't
solution,
just go away.
yeah, yeah, but okay, I disagree with the solution because I believe that the best solution to deal with this, which I believe is misdiagnosed gender dysphoria, is to homeschool or to basically avoid public schools because generally most of the time people start being curious about being the other gender from going
Uh-huh.
to public schools.
Well, hold on. Let's back up a second.
Yeah.
That's just not true at all. Like there are people that are trans and they've been homeschooled. There are also people that have been trans that have gone to public schools. But
But how
when
do you
how do
explain?
you well
Sorry.
hold on, wait. You said that people are misdiagnosed. Do you have any evidence for that? Like I don't know if you understand this, but the process for being diagnosed with gender dysphoria is not exactly like an easy walk in the park. For example, before you can even like seek treatment, as in something to like puberty blockers, or if you're older, hormones or something like that, you have to show gender dysphoria for the minimum of 6 months, according to the APA handbook. So,
Yeah.
like, where's
Well,
the evidence that
yeah.
this is being misdiagnosed? Because we're
Okay.
talking about going through multiple therapists and all getting the same diagnosis.
Well, I want you to explain the sudden boost in not just transgenderism itself, of people identifying with different gender, but also other forms of sexual
Well, hold
identification,
on. You're
such
not
as
answering my
being gay.
question, though. But
Sorry,
I'm
what was your
happy. I
question?
have an answer for that question. I'm more than happy to answer it. But
Yeah.
you said
What
that
was the
they're
question
being
again?
misdiagnosed. You said they're being misdiagnosed with gender dysphoria. How are you arriving to this conclusion? Because that's not what's happening. In fact, usually it's harder for trans people to even acquire treatment because it's so difficult to get a proper diagnosis.
Yeah, but because, okay, my answer is because the sudden boost in people identifying with different gender is unprecedented
Yeah,
and cannot
because,
be,
well, hold on. There's
yeah,
a really easy answer there. This is because it's now
right.
more socially acceptable and there's more social awareness. So if you look at it, trans people have existed virtually forever. I can point you to trans people that have existed in the 1800s. People who identify differently with a different gender or suffer from gender dysphoria, they've been around forever. But now that we have more acceptance and more awareness, more people are comfortable presenting as a gender that they want to be. They're more comfortable living their lives more freely. I feel like this is a similar argument as saying something like, how come we saw skyrocketing marriage between white and black people after it was made legal? Like, of course, now that it's legal, now that it's becoming more socially accepted as well, we also see people who are engaging in that behavior more freely.
Okay, so you mentioned that there were trans people in the 1800s or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, I hold one of my beliefs is that history is more cyclical than linear. And there's basically a cycle where a developed nation will have, how do I say this? Will socially corrupt or deviate from what used to be normal. And then basically this cycle repeats itself. So yeah, I would believe what you said that there probably used to be transgender people
But what's
in
normal?
the past.
What does normal mean? Isn't that a really
Normal is,
arbitrary standard?
well, what is normal is to procreate like you've done yourself, which I
So you're
pretty
making
much,
the natural argument.
yes.
Okay. So, one, no. We're not slaves to evolution, and we do not exist purely to procreate. By that logic, then women who get their uteruses removed are being like sinful or immoral or whatever. That's just not the case. Second of all,
I would make the argument, yeah.
okay, second of all, though, like making an appeal to nature is not a good route. There's a lot of shit that happens in nature that is quote unquote normal, if that's how you're defining something being normal, that we as humans would recognize as being immoral. So rape is an example of that. Animals rape each other a lot, and I don't, last I heard, there's not really any such thing as like a talking lion, so I don't think that they're able to ask consent for the most part.
Yeah,
But we as
yeah,
humans recognize that rape is wrong because it does harm to other people.
yeah.
So we're not just like little animals running around where our only goal is to procreate. I reject that notion.
Um, yeah, yeah, I guess but the thing is when you mentioned I don't think we're slaves to evolution. It's not that how do I say this? Yeah, I don't think we're slaves to evolution, but I think everyone should strive to procreate.
Okay, so what if
Yeah.
so 1 in 4,000 women are born without a uterus?
Yeah.
So what happens to this person? Are they just going to have to live a life as being immoral?
No, they can just get a partner, get married, and that's it, as normal.
So, but there's no procreation going on.
Yeah, but it's not, you strive for it if you can,
So
but you
you
don't
aim
have
to
to.
procreate, but you
Yeah,
don't have to procreate. So what if there's a trans person and then they adopt? Like we know for a fact that LGBT people are far more likely to adopt, of course.
yeah, Yeah.
So isn't that like that's not procreating, but
Well,
you're raising a family?
yeah. Well, everything I base all of my political opinions on is just based on living in the truth.
No, but you're not.
And
You hold on, wait. You're not telling
sorry.
anything. Nothing you've said thus far is the truth. You told me that people are being misdiagnosed with gender dysphoria. You have absolutely no evidence of that. And now you're saying we exist to aim to procreate. This is completely untrue. And then
Well, this
furthermore, why wouldn't you say then that we should all have a family? If you went that route, then we could say, okay, well, what's wrong with trans people having a family? Or what's wrong with gay people having a family?
because a child being born with a mom and a dad is not the same as being born with two dads or two moms. It's not the same.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I guess we just disagree.
No, this isn't something that we disagree on. This is like you telling me you disagree that the world is round. So it's a fact, for example, that children raised by gay parents do just as well as children raised by straight parents.
Well, define just as well.
They do just as well emotionally, mentally, and education wise. And they also tend to do really well economically as well because right now adopting is expensive.
Mm, these are not the only metrics I would define as doing well.
Well, this is what the studies controlled for, and they found that they did just as well as their counterparts raised by straight parents. So you really have no evidence at all, just like the misdiagnosed thing, that kids raised by gay parents are worse off somehow. This is just not true. In fact,
Well,
if there is any
yeah.
evidence of that, it's largely because of societal discrimination against LGBT individuals.
Well, yeah, this is the thing. Most of what my beliefs would be are not from. Okay, so look. So most of my beliefs, I would not like spend hours just researching this study or that study. It's mostly what I observe to be true in the world.
That's a very, very weak way of going about things. If we did that, then we would all be here. If we all applied your logic, we would all be believing the world is flat.
That's not true because you can perform an experiment and prove that it is not flat.
So we can perform an experiment and see that children raised by LGBT parents perform just as well as their straight counterparts.
Yeah, but this is the thing. You're trusting that the person doing those experiments is holding good faith.
Yeah, and you're trusting that the people doing the experiments to show that the world is round is doing that in good faith.
No, because I can replicate that myself.
Really? How do you
Yes.
replicate an experiment to show the world is round?
Well, you can just, I mean, you can't replicate. Sorry, I mixed being round with, I did some experiment in school about gravity. That's a different one.
Right. So
Um,
if we applied
yeah,
your logic, then we would be saying, well, I look outside, all right? I am looking,
yeah,
I'm
uh,
observing the truth,
yeah,
and the world is very flat.
yeah. Sorry, I just remembered the experiment that you do to prove that the world is round, which is basically you hold a pencil against the sun like a couple of different miles away,
Hmm.
and then the different of the angle of the shadow, you can determine not just the shape of the Earth, but also the radius. I remember
Okay.
doing that like 5 or 6 years ago, and it just popped back to mind. So
So
yeah, so
unless
for
you yourself are able to replicate the results of a study, you're not going to believe it? Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
not all studies, but before I just accept any study, I would definitely
Well, there's not just like one
because I
single
don't
study. There are
I don't
multiple
assume that
different.
it has good
Hold on. There are
faith.
multiple. Well, that's bullshit. Like you have no evidence that it's not done in good faith, and we're not talking about just one study here. We're talking about a plethora of information that all has the same results, showing that children raised by gay parents do just as well as children raised by straight parents. So for you to say, well, actually, I just don't believe that. That's honestly bullshit, and that basically just leads you to conspiracism. Thirdly, these studies I'm bringing up are oftentimes peer reviewed, which means that even if, say, someone did do a study in entirely bad faith, it wouldn't pass the peer review process where other people look at it and say, hold on, this doesn't hold up. This doesn't make sense. I mean, if we want to go your route, then I hope you're never taking any medication because I don't think you can replicate studies showing that certain medications are effective.
Um, this is different
Why?
argument
This is not different. This is
because
directly applicable.
okay, so one of the things that you said
Please don't pivot away
drives
from this. I want to stay focused on this one
okay
topic.
because you mentioned like five or different 6 points. It's hard to just
We're talking
answer
about
all of
right
that at
now
once.
gay
Or if we
adoption
question
because
the last one. Yeah,
we're talking
adoption. Yeah.
about gay adoption because you said
Yeah.
that people exist to procreate. And I think that it's a better process
People
if you want
should
to take it
strive
this
for it.
way. You should say to have a family. They should strive to have a family.
Yes.
And so my response to that is, okay, well, LGBT people can do that also. And now you're saying no because the studies were probably biased?
No, because I believe, okay, homosexuality, I believe, is a sin as well.
Okay, so you're coming at this from a religious perspective.
Well, it's not just from one perspective. I believe it is wrong on multiple levels, but we
Okay,
can
but you
just argue
realize that
on
you're
the
saying that the studies you can't trust, but you're trusting like an ancient book. Like I can't really reason
um
with you when you're taking this approach. You're telling me that this peer-reviewed medical science and medical consensus, which indicates across the board that children raised by gay parents do just as well as children raised by straight parents, is probably biased, but you're trusting the Bible? Can you replicate anything in the Bible? Can you replicate like walking on water
you
or
you
parting the Red Sea?
assume, well, two things. One, I'm like in early 20s now, so between the ages of 15 and 19, I did not believe at all at the time. And it basically my beliefs conclude me to believe. Okay, so let me get this. My beliefs conclude me to becoming religious. Not being religious makes me believe those things. The other way around.
So because you hold one wrong
Because I
belief, you're
believe, yeah,
believing other things that are wrong?
okay, so because I believe homosexuality is wrong, that I've become religious, not the
Okay,
other way around.
this is really bad. This is just you're basically arriving to a conclusion and then post hoc justifying it. This is
Okay,
why your
so
position is completely irrational. Because no matter what I tell you, you're still going to believe that being gay is bad. Because that's just what you want to believe. But you don't have any evidence
no,
for this.
no, no.
So when I
Okay,
give
so
you evidence that shows that you're wrong, you're saying, well, the study is probably biased.
being
I have a
being
big study here too that is, I believe, a meta-analysis or a systematic review of over 79 scholarly studies. 79. And
yeah.
they all found that kids did just as well.
Okay, so I'm saying being homosexual is wrong, not because of not because I'm not just saying being homosexual is wrong because oh I'm religious, I believe in this book. No. I'm saying being homosexual is wrong because one, you can't procreate. Two, you're probably harming yourself with the chances of catching HIV. So
Okay,
it's
so
a
you're
self-destructive
bringing up
behavior.
arguments though that are you keep moving away from one argument to say something else, which is why I'm getting the vibe that you're actually just you don't like gay people and you're kind of grasping at straws. So first, I'd like to read this really quickly from Cornell University. Over 79 scholarly studies. Taken together, this research forms an overwhelming scholarly consensus based on over 3 decades of peer-reviewed research that having a gay or lesbian parent does not harm children. So there's that. So I don't know what the purpose of saying procreate is when gay people can still have families. If you want to talk about harming people, well, there are a lot of kids right now suffering who have been abandoned and want to be adopted, and gay people are more likely to do that and provide them with a loving, caring household where they can do way better and get an education and so on. That hurts people by you
Yeah.
denying them that ability.
I
And then to
don't
just
think
really
that
quickly address your HIV thing, the only reason that gay people have a higher risk of HIV is literally because they engage in anal sex. Straight people have the same risk of HIV as well because they could also participate in anal sex.
okay, that was too many points to answer at once. Okay, I'm trying to remember what you said.
All right, I'll summarize really fast.
Okay.
you're saying that you don't think that gay people are good, and that's led you to being religious. And you keep giving me reasons as to why you don't think gay people are good, but all of your reasons thus far are not grounded in reality. So the first thing was you should procreate. Well, then I said, why can't we have a family? And you said having a family is good. And I said, so gay people can have a family, and all the available literature shows that there's no harm to children by having gay parents. And then you said that was probably biased.
Okay, so well, you just attributed motive that I just don't like gay people, which is
You
not true.
don't.
Okay, let me just continue this. The thing about this is, so I have multiple few gay friends that I've talked to, and the thing that I see happen in common is I just always ask them, how did you find that you became attracted to the different to became attracted to the same sex? And most of them just told me they're not just born like that. Most of them told me it's always started with the porn exposure at like very young age. And the increasing sexual novelty over time led them to deviate from what is normal.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
so
I don't care.
nothing.
This is anecdotal. That's like me saying, well, I have 3 gay friends and they all told me they were born that way. Second of all, I'm going to have to point to the research again, which shows that gay people are genetically predispositioned to being gay. It's anywhere between 8 to 27% genetic that they are gay. So it could be that maybe they had a predisposition and then were exposed to porn, and that's what sort of set things in motion because they were already more likely to be gay. That could be something, but this isn't proving anything, and you keep moving away from point to point. We have to get through one at a time. So I'm trying to stay on one topic, ideally. What is wrong with gay people adopting? Why is this a bad thing?
Okay, I don't think that them adopting is necessarily like bad, but it's far from ideal
Okay, why is it far from ideal?
because they should procreate themselves rather than
But they're
adopt
gay.
someone.
They can't procreate.
I this is I don't think people are born gay.
You keep saying I don't think this, I don't think that, but again, you're
Okay.
just saying things
People,
that you
okay, I'm gonna
think that
say
are
it as
based
a
on nothing.
statement rather than because I know you disagree with what I believe to be true. So that's why I say I think this, I think
This
that.
isn't
But
me
okay, I'm gonna say it
disagreeing.
as a statement.
No, no, no.
People are not born gay.
This is not me disagreeing with your opinion. This is me telling you that your opinion is completely wrong. Again, this is like me saying, all right, look,
That's
look, look. Hold on, wait, wait, wait. I just want to tell you that I'm saying this as a statement, okay? I don't think that cars are real. Like, it doesn't matter if I think cars are real or not. Cars are real, they exist. So you just saying, I don't think gay people are born gay is meaningless. I don't care what you think. That doesn't mean
So
anything. Gay
so
people
do
are
you
not
believe that
necessarily born
people are born
gay,
gay?
but they are born with a genetic predisposition to being gay. So, yes, they are born with a higher likelihood of becoming gay.
Okay, I see. So you think okay, so you believe that some people are born with higher disposition to be gay.
They are gay people. Second of all, there are even other studies that have shown that, like, if there are twins born and one twin is gay, the other twin is more likely to be gay, even if they're separated at birth, because there's a genetic component there. So when you say people aren't born gay, this is the equivalent to me saying, well, people aren't born white. People aren't born black. Like, this is a nonsensical argument.
I can get behind that if there's some people are genetically predisposed to being gay, but that only happens when once they have exposure to pornography.
No, it doesn't only happen when they have exposure to pornography. You have no evidence of this other than 2 friends you talk to.
Been to
Second of
many
all,
countries.
we could point to
Yeah.
the fact that for a long time, people would try to use conversion therapy and convert gay people by exposing them to straight porn. So if it was just porn, why are they not able to switch
Uh,
back upon viewing straight porn? They tried this for decades and found that conversion therapy did absolutely nothing.
I don't go behind conversion therapy. I think that's nonsense.
I don't think you do, but I'm pointing out the fact that they have tried to convert gay people via porn and it's never worked.
Okay, can you explain to me why in other societies that have stronger cultures, but they're weaker economically than Western countries? I've been to many different countries,
You're
and
moving
there's
away from this.
almost, yeah, but okay, it's I'm going getting to the point. There's almost the rates they have of transgenders or homosexuality, all this type of sexual deviancy are much, much lower than they have at the West.
That's well,
So why is that?
part of that is because of the way that human beings survive. So obviously, if you are fighting every day to get a meal, you're not as concerned about your sexual orientation or your gender identity. However, it doesn't mean that sexual orientation or gender identity isn't real. It just means that your priorities are different because you're in a third world country. This is a really dumb argument. So I'm going to take us back to what we were saying before. You need to establish to me why it is bad to be gay. How does this do harm? Them not being able to procreate means nothing. By that logic, then it's bad for straight people to get married if the guy has a vasectomy or if the woman doesn't have a uterus.
I told you because it's a self-destructing behavior.
It's not. You've not demonstrated that at all. You're just saying it. You're just
Yeah,
saying
but
things right now.
I told you two things. One, because okay, it's self-destructing for two reasons. One, you don't procreate, which is okay, I know you won't agree with this, but it's one of the reasons you're born.
That's not self-destruction.
Okay, can I just finish the 2 points and then you can,
Yes.
because I just get confused. Okay, because when like you make many different points, I
It's
don't
okay. Go
remember
ahead.
everything you said, so I just remember the last thing you said.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The 2 points are one, it's self-destructive because you don't get to procreate and have a family. I imagine you yourself are you probably pretty happy person for having created a family, which I do think most people will be if they do and live the way they're supposed to be. And the second point is HIV rates. And you told me that heterosexuals are just as likely to get HIV. That's not true. There's a reason that most blood donors don't accept donations from homosexual partners, and that's because their HIV rates are skyrocketing higher
I
than.
think they've started to go down significantly. I think they used to be higher because of a couple things. Is one, the way that gay people just have sex, like using oral sex, for example, engaging in certain sexual behavior just raises the likelihood of you getting HIV. But I believe that that's gone down now quite significantly. So also, straight people can also get HIV. This is not nothing to do that's intrinsic with gay people. So you saying it's a self-destructive thing, that doesn't add up. Then by that logic, having sex could be a self-destructive thing because there's not just HIV. You know,
Having promiscuous, well, this
there's
is
a
the thing.
lot of
I have,
STDs that you can get
yes,
from
yes,
all kinds of sexual
yes.
engagements. You can
So
get
yeah,
HPV, which raises your chance of getting cancer.
so your point is 100% correct. I do believe promiscuous heterosexual sex is also self-destructing behavior.
Okay, but then this has nothing to do with gay people. You're not
No,
proving
it
your
just
point
means
right now.
both
You're
are
saying
wrong.
they're not procreating like they're supposed to be. One, I don't know who's dictating what they're supposed to be. Second of
I
all,
told you.
you say they're supposed to have a family. This is just looping. Like you say they're supposed to have a family. I'm telling you right now that there's no harm done to children raised by gay parents, and your response to this is just nuh-uh. If
No,
anything,
this
it's
is
your
not what I said.
worldview that's really destructive.
Okay, okay. So I said that homosexual sex is self-destructive. So you just told me that, oh no, heterosexual sex is just as destructive, and I said promiscuous heterosexual sex is destructive, not like being committed to one partner.
So why aren't
So
you
yes,
arguing
I'm
against
saying both
promiscuous?
are bad.
Okay, but
I'm
why aren't
saying
you?
both are
No,
bad.
no, no. You don't.
Yeah.
I don't think you understand. Why aren't you arguing that against promiscuous sex? That would be the argument. Not that gay people are bad because they have higher rates of HIV, which is because of a fuck ton of different reasons. So I really have no understanding as to why you're bringing this up in regards to saying being gay is self-destructive. At this point, your argument is just engaging in promiscuous behavior is self-destructive. And there's part of that I might even agree with. But that's not intrinsic to gay people. So this isn't an argument against gay people. You're making an argument against promiscuous sex. And
Why?
somehow we've,
Okay.
hold on, wait, shh.
Yeah.
Somehow we've
Sorry.
managed completely to move the conversation again to all sorts of different things because every time I bring this up, you keep pivoting away because I think that you know you're wrong in this. What is wrong with gay people having a family? You need to tell me that. Especially in this case, mind you, if we're talking about gay people adopting, we're talking about committed partners. We're talking about a nuclear family raising a child.
Okay. So, okay, so the point you're saying is what's wrong with two gay people having a family, like adopting a child, basically. And
Yes.
there's nothing that like hurts the two gay parents, but it is okay. So the reason I don't think it's the worst thing, but it's far from ideal because the child misses out on having a mother.
The
And you
child's
told
missing
me
out on
that,
having, wait, stop. You're not making
okay,
any sense right now. The child is missing out on having parents. The child is either in a foster care system or in a fucking orphanage. They want to be adopted. They want a family.
yes, being adopted by gay parents is better than being in an orphanage, but it's far from ideal.
Okay,
This is
but
the point.
no, it's not. You've not demonstrated that it's far from ideal. You
Well,
can't demonstrate that. I'm able to demonstrate that children raised by gay parents do not suffer any kind of like unique likelihood of risk. I'm able to pull up studies here from Sage journals which show that school outcomes of children raised by same-sex parents is completely fine. They're either comparable or better. And even a new study actually just found that they do better in school. Because if you're adopting, you also have more money, most likely. And it's being raised in an environment where you're more socioeconomically stable that leads to an overall benefit. So if the option isn't, here's a kid with a mom and a dad and the gay person's going to kidnap them, we're talking about a child who is orphaned, who has the opportunity to get or have two parents, excuse me, and you're saying that that's less than ideal and it's not natural, yada, 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 but you're not proving that at all. Well, how is it less than ideal?
Okay, I think this comes to difference in worldview. Okay, I'm getting to the point, so just let me finish the point, please. So this comes to different in worldview is that you would believe any study you would see, and I wouldn't believe any study I see, especially
You just believe in a 3,000-year-old book. Like, we can
um
do this all day, dude. Like, and first of all, no, I don't just believe any study I see. And this is the problem, I think, with this conversation is I think you realize you're a little bit cornered here. There is no evidence that that gay parents raising a child is of any harm to the child. In fact, it's usually a benefit, or it's not a harm or a benefit. It's just equal to kids raised by straight parents. You have no evidence. So instead of facing the fact that, well, maybe you're wrong, no, now you're going to say actually all the studies are biased? Do you think all 79 scholarly articles that were all peer reviewed were all biased?
okay, so my road of skepticism began 2 years ago when okay, so look, so I don't know if I can mention this on your stream, but like the medicine going around for okay, so
Wait, what you can
I
mention
know
what as long as it's not a
oh
violation of TOS like a slur or something, what can you not say
no
on my
no
stream?
no the jab.
The vaccine, yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay, I can mention it. Um so the reason I became very much skeptical of studies that you consider to be truth, like I can't think otherwise, they're like just fact.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the reason I became much more skeptical is because, everywhere on the news you see safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective. I know two people who died the day they got jabbed. So I become very skeptical of anything I read deemed to be fact
Okay,
online
so if
just
you read a
because,
study, okay.
yeah.
So, first of all, that's a really bad argument because you don't know if they died from the vaccine. You don't know if that caused it. Even if it
Healthy in
did,
their 30s.
hold on.
Yeah.
I will concede for the sake of this argument, even though you have no evidence, that, okay, fine, they took the vaccine and
I
then
can
they
send you the
died.
video, by the way.
I don't need a video. So, sure,
Okay.
they took the vaccine and then they died. This is the equivalent of me saying I'm not going to trust any data because studies show that seatbelts are effective at stopping people from dying in a car accident. But I have a friend who got in a car accident and he was strangled by the seatbelt. So that means every bit of research is wrong? This is ludicrous. This is literally insanity right now.
Because, okay, look, so I wouldn't just believe your study that you sent me that says just having gay parents just as good, or like they do better than even having heterosexual parents, because there's a heavy incentive to promote.
You're doing it. You're playing into the conspiracism. And this is what
Okay.
happens when you're wrong and you don't have an answer, is rather than accepting the fact that there is a mountain of data that
I'm not
proves you
convinced by
wrong.
your argument.
No, there is a mountain of data that proves you wrong. And rather than just accepting that, you're now making up, no, you're making up bedtime stories to cope with the fact that you don't have any evidence on your side. You have personal anecdotes and a 4,000-year-old book of fairy tales, dude.
You you assume me to be Christian. I'm
You
not.
said you follow the Bible. I'm sorry. That's usually
I
associated
did
with being
not say
Christian.
that.
Did you not bring up the Bible?
I never mentioned the Bible.
What are you saying? You said that being anti-gay is what led you to believe in the Bible.
I never mentioned the Bible. I said in the book, I'm not Christian, I'm Muslim. I never mentioned the Bible.
Okay.
Never mentioned the Bible once
I
in the whole.
I could have sworn you mentioned the Bible.
I
Maybe
think
we
I
can.
mentioned I said my faith or my book, and you just assumed it to be Christian because I'm assuming you debate with a lot of Christians.
Okay, sure.
I'm
That's
not.
honestly that's aside the point. Maybe you said that being anti-gay is what led you to be religious, and maybe I assumed it was Christian.
Yes,
But
yes,
even
yes, yes.
okay, fine. It doesn't change the fact that you have zero evidence on your side. You keep saying like, yeah, well, we're meant to procreate and have a family. And I'm explaining to you, cut and dry, how gay people can have a family and provide a better life for literal orphaned kids. And you're saying, no, because all the studies were probably wrong.
Look,
You're deluding yourself right now.
look. If they adopt, I think that's great. That's better than being an orphan for the child. But for me, in an ideal society, the child shouldn't be in an orphanage to begin with.
There is no such thing as an ideal society,
There
dude.
should
We
be
have to
a
work with what
higher
we
standard
have.
of, but this is the thing. We don't have a strong family unit.
In my
Most
ideal
family,
society, people with your kind of delusional beliefs wouldn't exist, but we have to work with what we have to work with. So
like,
we can fantasize about the perfect society all day long. That's great, but again, we're now back to telling bedtime stories. I want to work with reality. Remember a second ago you said you like to base stuff on truth? Now you're telling
yeah,
me some kind of a fantasy. This isn't truth. So
this
why
has
is it
been
bad for
with,
gay people to adopt? Every time you fail to answer this question, you start to look worse and worse.
okay. I said it's better for the children than being in an orphanage. That would suck more than being adopted by two gay parents. But it's still not as good as having a mom and a dad.
And you have no evidence of this. You're making stuff up. I've given you all the evidence to show that kids fare just as well, if not better.
Okay.
And you're
So,
just assuming it's bad. This is why we keep looping. Because I think you need to
okay.
just concede that there's nothing wrong with gay people raising kids.
No, I don't think there's something with them adopting I don't think there's something wrong with raising kids. I think there's something wrong with being gay to begin with.
Okay, well, then I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, again, you're just living in denial.
I think I told you when I messaged you before I joined the call that I agree with you on pretty much nothing bar abortion, but I still respect your content. So
Okay, wait.
because
I
it's
don't want to hang
different.
up yet
Yeah.
because
Yeah, that's
now
fine.
you're saying you don't agree with being gay in general. Is this because it's unnatural?
Going back to my point that it's self-destructing behavior and
How is it
that's no,
self-destructing again?
The 2 points I made,
Don't bring
one,
up. No, we already went over the STD thing, and
yeah,
we
what,
established that that's not intrinsic to
yeah,
gay people,
why,
and that
why,
it's
you
just
said
about being
what?
promiscuous.
No, but okay, if both heterosexuals people and having both heterosexual and gay sex are both equally, like, you can transmit just as equally, why is it much more common in gay societies?
There are various
Right.
reasons. There are even reasons for like discrimination plays a role. So for a while, HIV was seen as nothing but a gay disease. And so if people had
Still hold that
HIV,
belief.
they would be too. I know you do because you're crazy,
Okay.
but it was literally seen as a gay disease. So you had gay people who were afraid to seek treatment because they knew that by seeking treatment, they would also be outed as gay. Because of people that hold beliefs like you, because of people that make it harder and harder to exist as a gay person, you actually contribute
I want to go
to the
back.
rising AIDS rates, if you want to
Okay.
put it that way.
So you said people like me, I make it difficult for people to be gay or transsexual. To
Yes.
be honest, in I like if someone tells me they're gay or transsexual, I don't go be like I don't care. Basically, like you live
You
the
do
way
care.
you want to. I'm very like libertarian style way of thinking. I don't care if you I do think it's wrong, but I'm not gonna comment to you or tell you that's
But you have
your
no
way.
reason for thinking it's wrong. We have it's not natural. Was that one of your points?
Yes, that
Okay,
was
so
one
we
of them.
see there's over 1,500 animal species that engage in homosexual behavior. So it actually is very natural, my friend. Second of all, we already broke up the STD shit. There can be higher rates because of maybe higher levels of promiscuity, but guess what? A lot of the reasons there's higher rates of promiscuity is because gay people are discriminated against and are unfortunately put in environments where that kind of behavior is more common. Similarly, we see higher rates of drug use by LGBT people because they're more likely to be homeless and taken into communities that are less than ideal, in your words. So none of this has anything to do with being intrinsic to gay people. It's actually completely natural. There's a genetic predisposition to being gay, and kids raised by gay people do just as well, if not better. And you just don't have an answer for any of this.
I mentioned you at my answer. You're just not.
No,
You
your
don't
answer
agree
is
with me.
I
You're
don't
not satisfied.
agree.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay, what was your answer again?
Or why they can't have why can't homosexual parents adopt? Is that what you said? Why is it wrong?
Why? Yeah, what's like you keep
Okay.
saying, I guess you said it's less than ideal than having a mom and a dad, but you can't prove that either.
Look, okay, so I can spend a few hours to just show you different studies that will not agree with what you hold, because
No, those studies are all
there's
biased.
studies that there's studies that both support the viewpoints of the right and the left, and people just listen to like only their side and not the other side.
No, it's
And
actually
I
that
can
there's
just get you
several.
studies
No,
that say
no,
that it's not the same.
no, you can't. And if you do, then I would be more than happy to take a look at the methodology. And even if you did find one that said that, then we would have to compare for socioeconomic circumstances as well. Thirdly, that doesn't take away from the fact that there's over 79 scholarly studies, over 3 decades, peer reviewed research that shows it's not harmful. You're like,
When you say
it's
peer
just no, no,
reviewed,
no.
it
I don't
reminded
think you
me.
realize how contradictory you're being when you say that, well, Hunter, your studies are biased, even though I have fucking 79 of them over 3 decades and they're all peer reviewed. And then you say, well, I could probably like pick one study that doesn't agree with you. You're actually literally latching on to the biased study thing.
Look, so I think a little bit earlier, you mentioned that my opinions are crazy, but I think you forget the fact that the vast majority of the world hold the same opinion as me. And this is just a West thing. This is a new modern thing. Like,
Yeah, where people live their lives freely and happily.
I think you
Yes.
just don't realize that it's I think you view it as progress, where it's more just cyclical cultural collapse.
This is the
And
equivalent of saying like there's a lot of places in the world that are racist, so I don't give a shit. Racism is still bad. Like
uh,
these are not arguments. I don't know where to go from here, man, because at this point you're just in denial.
that's all right. I mean, I'm not convinced. by your argument. Oh, that's all.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm not convinced by yours either.
That's
Because
all
you
right. I
didn't make
enjoyed
an
talking
argument.
to you.
But all right, well,
Well, it's all right. Thank you so
take
much,
care.
man. Thank you for giving us a platform. Thank you. Bye bye.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you get notified when I drop a new video.